She loved how he was emotionless until her mom was in the hospital due to heart surgery, and she wanted him to comfort her, but he physically couldn't cause he was so empty inside. Married life was a bore, so I got a canary to spice things up. Who knew word would get back to my husband of convenience? From that day on, he started coming home a lot, and he got creative, until one day, he asked me, "When are you going to let me meet this canary you're keeping on the side? What's so special about him?" I froze. "You want to meet him?" When he said yes, I took him to see my bird, a Gloucester canary. Peter Fairchild and I were husband and wife, courtesy of a business arrangement. We'd known each other since we were kids, but we were never close. After the wedding, he was consumed by his empire, and I by mine. We were apart more often than we were together. It was our normal. Lately, Peter had been tied up with an overseas partnership, vanishing for weeks at a time. My friends loved to tease me about it. "You always joked about wanting a husband who's never home, and just sends money," one of them said, swirling her wine. "But Peter is a god-tier catch. With him gone, I can't decide if you're winning or losing." "Seriously, Allison," another chimed in, "your married life looks exactly like your single life. All work and schmoozing. Aren't you bored? Haven't you thought about finding other ways to have fun?" "Bored? Maybe a little. That's probably why, when I drove past a street market with a flower stall and a pet shop, I pulled over on a whim. I walked out with a bouquet of white lycianthus in one hand and a birdcage in the other. Inside was a fluffy, bright yellow ball of feathers. The shop owner called it a Gloucester canary. Its cheerful, insistent chirping was a melody that made my own heart feel a little lighter. I didn't take the canary to the house I shared with Peter. Instead, I set him up in a villa I owned, with a housekeeper to look after him. Our marital home was shared space. I couldn't just bring an animal into it, without his say-so. The day I officially became a bird owner, I had to share my excitement with my best friend, Sophie. The background on her end of the line was a chaotic roar of voices. She could barely hear me, and had to put me on speaker. I raised my voice. I said, "I'm keeping a canary on the side now." The word hung in the air, and then, inexplicably, her end went dead silent. The entire party seemed to hold its breath. "Sophie." Her voice came back, a frantic, hushed whisper. "Allison, are you insane? You can't just say things like that. Do you have any idea where I am?" "What?" I was genuinely confused. What was wrong with getting a bird? Is that not something I can talk about? Sophie hissed, "Keep your voice down. Is it something to be proud of?" In the days following that bizarre call, I started catching whispers about me and a canary. People would go quiet whenever I walked into a room, but I was swamped with work and didn't have the energy to figure out what they were gossiping about. Tonight, I came home late from the office, and sensed something was off the moment I stepped inside. The air felt different. I looked up and saw a silent figure, sitting on the living room sofa. The man I hadn't seen in half a month was back, without a word of warning. "Peter." I walked toward him, dropping my purse on the console table. "I thought you weren't back for another week." "Well, we weren't a love match. I at least kept track of his schedule. You don't want me back." His voice was strange, laced with an unfamiliar edge. "What?" I didn't understand. He opened his mouth as if to say more, then shut it, a muscle clenching in his jaw. His expression was dark, almost stormy. I reached out and touched his cheek. "Are you feeling all right? You look pale." "No fever." The next second, his arm snaked around my waist, pulling me into him without warning. I landed on his lap, straddling him. Before I could process it, his mouth was on mine. It wasn't a welcome home kiss. It was a storm, a desperate, claiming kiss that tasted of something I couldn't name. As it deepened, the taste soured with something else. Possession, maybe even anger. I tried to pull away, murmuring that I hadn't showered, but he just swept me into his arms. My legs wrapped around his waist, and stood. He started walking toward the bathroom. Peter worked out. The hard planes of his body were a testament to that, and he held me with an effortless strength that always left me a little breathless. But tonight was different. He was fierce. So fierce I cried. But he didn't stop. He just kept asking me, his voice a ragged whisper against my skin, who he was. "Peter, husband, my love." None of my answers seemed to satisfy him, but he demanded them anyway. The bathroom filled with steam, and I felt like a castaway clinging to a raft in a churning sea. My body was pushed to its limits, and somewhere in the dizzying haze, I heard him whisper in my ear, "You're mine." Of course, I was his, but I was too exhausted to answer. It was like he'd never seen a woman before in his life. It wasn't until the next morning that I had the strength to ask him about his schedule. He stood by the bed, his gaze intense as he looked down at me. "The project is wrapping up." I handed off the final stages. "I'll be staying in the country for a while, but you said it was a critical deal, that you had to see it through yourself." Peter nodded slowly. "There are other critical things here that need my personal attention." I didn't catch the hidden meaning in his words. From that day on, Peter was a different man, logically, with our demanding jobs. We should have barely seen each other, but he started coming home, early. Most days, he was already there when I walked in. Tonight, I came home to find him in the kitchen, wearing an apron and carrying a platter of food. I stopped in my tracks. It wasn't just that Peter was cooking. It was the way he was dressed. He had on a black tank top that did nothing to hide the sculpted lines of his muscles. That, paired with his handsome face, sent a wave of raw sex appeal crashing over me. The apron only amplified it, a dash of husband material. It was dangerously attractive. He looked at me, his expression softening. "You're home. Go wash up. Dinner's ready." It was the first time my husband had ever cooked for me. Our marriage was a contract. Domestic skills weren't part of the deal. We had staff for that. I had no idea he was this talented. "Is it good?" he asked, watching me take a bite. I nodded like a bobblehead. "Delicious." Then he added, his voice layered with meaning, "If the food at home is this good, you won't have to eat out. It's not healthy." I only heard the surface level meaning. "Absolutely not. You're too busy. You can't come home from work every day and cook." Peter just stared at me. Later that evening, while he was in the shower, I called Sophie. Her voice was conspiratorial. Is your husband around? No, why? Just checking. How's your little canary doing? My canary. Oh, he's great. He started rubbing his head against my hand to be cute. My little bird had a wonderfully sweet sorry. Due to copyright issues, I am unable to continue updating the next chapter. If you like the book, if you like this book, circ 289,705 unmode novel. To read this book,